Hey guys, Welsknight here. It seems like every few months, something new pops up on YouTube that threatens to destroy the site and our way of life. The sky is falling, the something apocalypse has come. The latest of these is COPPA, or COPPA, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It is the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, and I want to talk about that today. Disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. I have not passed a bar exam, and I am not licensed to practice law anywhere. What I have to say should not be taken as legal advice. When in doubt, consult with an actual attorney. I am, however, someone who was a paralegal for over a decade, and I would go so far as to say that my knowledge of the law goes a bit beyond your average person. So, take what I say with a grain of salt, but at the same time, I do know some things. So what is COPPA or COPPA? I'm going to call it COPPA. It is a federal regulation which covers online content and websites directed at children and prevents companies and organizations and whatnot from gathering data on children without parental consent. It is in the news recently because YouTube recently reached a settlement with the FTC, who enforces this law, for, I think it was like $117 million or something like that, because they were found to be violating it. And as a result of this settlement, YouTube is going to be implementing new rules which require YouTubers to mark their content as intended for or not intended for children. If a YouTuber is found to be making child-directed content and not properly declaring it and saying so, they could face fines of up to $42,000 per video. Or so the FTC says, and whether or not that's actually true is debatable. We will talk more about that later, and it's actually super important, so make sure you stick around for that bit. The problem here is that what is considered child-directed is not clearly defined, and it's incredibly vague. So if you read the actual COPPA law, you know what, let me back up a little bit. Pretty much every law, when you read through it, when you read through the actual regulations and the actual laws themselves, almost every law is going to have a section devoted to definitions. So for example, if you're reading a law that about, I don't know, criminal law, assault with a deadly weapon, it would have a definition section, and the definition section would define what assault is and what a deadly weapon is from a legal standpoint. If you're talking about a law that, I don't know, maybe Congress passes a law that requires vehicles be eco-friendly or something like that by 2040, I don't know, I'm just pulling things out of thin air at this point. But that law would presumably have a section that defines eco-friendly and would say something like a vehicle is considered eco-friendly. Actually, it would say eco-friendly means X, Y, and Z. So if we look at the Code of Federal Regulations covering COPPA, specifically 16 CFR section 312.2, you can look it up and read it for yourself if you'd like. It states, and I quote, "Website or online service directed to children means a commercial website or online service or portion thereof that is targeted to children. In determining whether a website or online service or portion thereof is directed at children, the Commission, that is the FTC, will consider its subject matter, visual content, use of animated characters or child-oriented activities and incentives, music or other audio content, age of models, presence of child celebrities or celebrities who appeal to children, language or other characteristics of the website or online service, as well as whether advertising, promoting, or appearing on the website or online service is directed at children. The Commission will also consider competent and reliable empirical evidence regarding audience composition and evidence regarding the intended audience." So, to put all of that into layman's terms, there are essentially 10 factors which the FTC will consider when determining whether something is directed at children, and that is 1, subject matter, 2, visual content, 3, the use of animated characters or child-oriented activities or incentives. 4, music or other content, or music or other audio content. 5, age of models. 6, presence of child celebrities or celebrities who appeal to children. 7, language or other characteristics. 8, whether advertising, promoting, or appearing on the website is directed to children. 9, competent and reliable empirical evidence and audience composition. And 10, the intended audience. So competent and reliable empirical evidence about the composition of the audience watching that content, and 10, the intended audience of the content. The problem here is that the clarity ends there. The law does not further define those terms. Likewise, the law does not state whether a piece of content needs to meet one, some, the majority, or all of those factors, simply that it's up to the commission, which is the FTC, to decide. So that kind of leaves creators in a rough situation because of how vague the wording is. What are child-oriented activities? Does that include video games? Arts and crafts? Pets? Sports? What's child-oriented mean? What about competent and reliable empirical evidence? Are YouTube's analytics considered competent and reliable? Because someone can simply lie about their age or use somebody else's account. I mean, I have over 2,700 videos uploaded to YouTube over the last 5 years. I would guesstimate that there are probably about 50 at most that are non-gaming videos, which are clearly not intended for children who are under the age of 13. Like this video, for example. I don't see a whole lot of children under the age of 13 being interested in a video about federal regulations. I feel like most 8-year-olds just won't care. The rest of those videos, however, are family-friendly gaming videos, and I could potentially be fined $42,000 per video if the FTC decides, based on their vague definitions, that content like that is directed at children, and that would be $113 million in fines. Again, though, whether or not they can actually impose those fines is a matter of discussion, and I will talk about that in just a minute. Punitive laws. Specifically, that means laws which have a punishment attached to them, laws that have teeth, if you will, need to be clearly defined. Not knowing the law has never been a valid legal defense, and yet, when even someone who does know the text of the law is unsure of how to comply with it, that's a significant issue. Now, YouTube has some good faith measures that they have to meet as a result of their settlement, and those measures are as follows. They are creating a machine learning algorithm to identify child-directed content on their platform. Machine learning algorithm. What could possibly go wrong? 10 out of 10. Guaranteed to be successful. They're forcing content creators to declare whether their content is child-directed or not. We have to now check a box that says, yes, it is intended for children, or no, it is not intended for children. And if a YouTuber's content is determined to be child-directed, whether by the algorithm or because the YouTuber themselves marks it as such, they're essentially going to lose everything that allows them to make a living on YouTube. Almost all ad revenue, channel memberships, comments, end cards, recommendations, all that kind of stuff. Basically everything that allows your channel to function will just disappear. If a YouTuber's content is not declared as child-directed, but is found to be, they could potentially face massive fines, and presumably they would lose their channel and their ability to, continue being a YouTuber. Foreign YouTubers, so YouTubers who live outside of the US, I cannot imagine that the FTC would fine them. I don't think they have jurisdiction and a sufficient chance of extradition, but they would still lose everything about their channel, as we discussed a minute ago, all the comments and ad revenue and whatnot. Now, if a YouTuber's content is clearly not family-friendly because it contains swearing, violence, drug use, whatever, they can still be monetized anyway, so that hasn't changed. So YouTube has put us between a rock and a hard place where if you want to be monetized, you can't have things that are not advertiser friendly. But if you make videos that are advertiser friendly, they may be considered to be child directed. And now we have new problems with that. So you can't make, family friendly content, but you also can't make family unfriendly content. I don't know where to go from there. What's left? However, and this is super, 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 super important, there is one huge problem with this whole thing, and that is whether or not the FTC actually has the legal authority to enforce COPPA on an individual YouTube channel basis is debatable at best. There is an absolutely fantastic video from Hogue Law, a YouTube channel that is run by an actual lawyer rather than someone with a bunch of subscribers, called Rattling the COPPA Saver on the Weaknesses of the FTC's Case Against YouTube Content Creators. It is linked in the description, and if you are a YouTuber, you should watch that video. I don't care how many COPPA videos you've watched, watch that one. Most of the videos that you have watched are probably wrong. Watch that one. It is, however, a 40-minute video, so the short version is that the FTC would have an extremely difficult time proving that they have the statutory authority to enforce COPPA against individual YouTube creators, because individual YouTube creators do not collect any data. YouTube does that for us, and the most important part is they do it whether we want them to or not. We have, as YouTubers, no control over what data gets collected or what data we ultimately see or that YouTube decides to share with us. YouTube does not give us that information or that control, and as a result, it's very, very difficult for the FTC to go into a court of law before a judge and say, look at them violating COPPA by collecting all this data and doing nefarious things with it. We don't have any control of that. How are we supposed to comply with COPPA when we have no actual control over the data that is being collected? We have nothing to do with that aspect of it. So, even if even if the FTC does ultimately decide that a YouTuber's content is indeed child-directed based on those 10 factors that we talked about earlier, they still have to prove it in court that that YouTuber violated COPPA by collecting data on children, and that is going to be extremely difficult to do. With that said, YouTube is still ultimately imposing new restrictions and introducing new problems for YouTubers, especially family-friendly ones who make videos for a general audience, like I do. A creator will find it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to make a living on YouTube if they lose all of the various features that YouTube would take away if their content is marked or discovered to be child-directed. Personally, I have very little confidence in YouTube's machine learning algorithm and its ability to correctly identify content that is actually child-directed. I'm honestly not worried about the FTC coming after me. I am worried about the potential ramifications of the changes that YouTube is making as a result of their deal with the FTC, which may result in the loss of key channel features, which I and other YouTubers like me need to keep doing this as a living. Now, what can you do about it? To be honest, I don't know if there's a great solution. YouTube has already come up with a settlement and a legally binding obligation with the FTC to make these changes that they're making. They're not going to backpedal on that. With that said, there are a couple things you can do. The FTC is requesting public comment and feedback on their website concerning COPPA as it applies to individual YouTubers. I'll put a link to that in the description where you can leave them a comment and some feedback. Please remember to be respectful. There's also a petition for saving family-friendly content on YouTube. Again, I don't know how useful it will be, but it can't hurt to sign the petition. I'll link that in the description as well. You can also share this video and others like it to raise awareness, preferably videos from YouTubers who do have an actual legal background of some sort, because there's a ton of false information going around. And last but certainly not least, follow the creators who you do watch regularly on other platforms and social media. To be honest, there is a significant chance that these changes, depending on how well or not well YouTube implements them, may result in people leaving to go to other platforms, myself included. If YouTube takes away my ability to make a living on YouTube, then I will move to another platform like Twitch or Mixer. It's that simple. I cannot pay my bills if I don't have all of these features that YouTube would potentially take away. So I would have no choice but to move to another platform. And the same is going to be true of a lot of other family-friendly creators. We'll just have to see how it shakes out. It's also it's possible that this may end up being much ado about nothing, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So that's my 2 cents. I think I'm going to leave it right there. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check those out. They're very important. Make sure you watch that video from Hogue Law. It's extremely well done and very informative and corrects a lot of things that people have been getting wrong. Other than that, my friends, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.